Ukraine has experienced multiple cyber attacks on government agencies since the war began and is blaming Russia. Could the U.S. be targeted next? Joining me now, Krebs Stamos group partner and cybersecurity expert Christopher Krebs. Chris, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate your insights. I assume that low-level cyber attacks from Russians on U.S. targets are still continuing. How likely is it that they could escalate into something really serious, and are we prepared to defend against them?
I think that's the question that many in the cybersecurity community and the national security community, as well as business executives, are thinking about right now. Russia has been undertaking a series of cyber activities here in the U.S. for over a decade now. You think back over the last several years, some of the more notable events, including SolarWinds, some of the energy sector targeting of 2017 and 18. So they've always been here, and they've been fairly persistent. And we've, as a defending community, been on the lookout for them. And I think over time, we have absolutely improved our resilience, not necessarily absolute security, but we have improved the resilience of American critical infrastructure, both to detect and respond fairly rapidly to any attacks.
So if they should get worse, and especially if we were unable to defend against them, at what point might the U.S. escalate our attacks, and what would that look like? Do we shut down a medium-sized Russian city?
I don't think that that would be in the playbook for the U.S. government. I think we have a different set of values, and we would leave civilian targets out of it. Instead, I expect what you would see is the U.S. Cyber Command or the intelligence community looking to take action against the systems and infrastructure that allowed the attack to take place, as well as perhaps go after some of the security service networks in Russia. But there are other risks, I think, that U.S. businesses need to be thinking about, and particularly as they consider or have already made that decision to exit the market, that could introduce some additional risk in targeting from some degree of retaliation from either Russian cyber criminals or Russian security services.
And so in your world, are you seeing those companies beef up their defenses?
Oh, absolutely. We've been working with a number of companies here in the U.S. and in Europe over the last several weeks to help them understand what's coming. And whether you like it or not, business as usual in Russia just is not a thing anymore. And some additional pressures that you see, things like Professor Sonnenfeld from the Yale School of Management that is maintaining a list of companies that have stayed in Russia. And so as these companies are making these decisions to leave, they have to think about data retention requirements, backups, hardening devices that may be in Russia so that they can't be compromised by the security services, and protecting some of the intellectual property that may still reside within Russia.
Sure, that totally makes sense. I want to pivot to Ukraine. Two questions. First of all, what is the current status of whatever Russian government hackers are doing, if that's the right word, are doing in Ukraine? And to your point about the grid, we haven't seen that in the Ukraine either. And I wonder, is that because the Russian hope is to take over the country and they'd rather have the electrical grid still working?
So on your last point, I think that's absolutely part of the calculus for the Russian attackers here. It's not just that they need the lights running when they try to move into the house, but also they're relying upon the domestic telecommunications networks in Ukraine. There have been reports and evidence that they're using commercial devices that run on the Ukrainian network. So it wouldn't serve their purposes to conduct some kind of attack on Ukrainian industries.
So this may be naive, but if it's a behavioral thing, I see the great reporting that the U.S., the U.K. are doing on this war, and I know it's misinformation that Russian citizens are getting. Could white hat hackers or even governments do sort of the modern-day equivalent of dropping leaflets? Could we somehow get actual news, actual images in front of the Russian people?
Well, there are Russian citizens, folks living inside Russia, that have the ability to contact the outside internet despite the Russian government's efforts to limit access to Facebook and Twitter. And they can use virtual private network connections to tunnel back out. So there is some Western information that's getting in. And then you see things like the Ukrainian IT army that is enlisted, to your point, white hat hackers and other sympathetic types to help them go after Russian organizations, Russian agencies. And so, yes, I think information is going to pierce this new digital iron curtain. But honestly, I think the more apparent indicators that something is amiss, or very significantly amiss, is the empty shelves that you're seeing at stores in Russia. The sanctions packages that have been dropped on the Russians is really, as you've talked about, very devastating on the market and will create significant long-term economic problems for Russian leadership.
Yeah, that's a great point. We have to leave it there. Christopher Krebs, I also want to thank you for your service to this country. We didn't have a time to get to that, but thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.